3, 2, 1.
Boom!
Welcome to the Back Chat with the Back Doctor and your host here, Dr. Oz, welcoming everyone back to the newest episode of Gut-Brain Connection. And with me, I have our amazing and most awesome guest, Dr. Ben. Welcome.
Oh, you're too kind, Dr. Oz. I'm so excited to have this discussion with you. We're going to cover a lot of amazing topics.
Yes, so we're literally going to be just going straight into it in just a moment. But one of the things that I want to just pre-frame to the audience listening today, because this is such a big topic, and it's a new topic that's research is just being founded out now, but this issue has been being addressed for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So one of the big things is a lot of people have a lot of gut issues that don't translate well to the nervous system, to the brain, right? Everyone used to think it was all separated. But now the newest technology, the newest research is starting to show that there is a connection between how your brain functions and how well your gut functions. And that's tying those two in together. So the audience listening today is like, really, it's all about giving you guys that information, but also transformative aspects to be able to get the best outcomes and actually start to get better health as well. So,
absolutely.
Dr. Ben, let's get straight into it. And can you break down the gut-brain connection for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So every organ in our body is connected to the one under our hat, in our skull, our brain, right? And your gut, your gastrointestinal system is one of these beautiful systems that's under neurological control. From our brain, down our spine, out to the gut. Did you know your gut has been coined your second brain?
The second brain.
Yeah, your second brain. Yeah, so it's really important when it comes to health.
So how did it become known as the second brain?
Because it has its own inbuilt nervous system called the enteric nervous system. Yeah, and it is involved in a lot of pathways for function, for healing, for digestion, for hormone release, for sleep, for general health and wellness.
So let's not let's go deeper into it, but let's not completely do a full analysis on how each of the pathways work, but roughly how does that system actually communicate and create so many benefits to those areas? Yeah,
so the term is gut-brain axis, and it's a bidirectional pathway. Your gut influences your brain, and your brain influences your gut. And the axis part of gut-brain axis is what we call the vagus nerve, which is the nerve, it's an autonomic nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, which connects your gut to your brain.
Hold up, let's slow that down a bit. So you said the axis that connects them is called the vagus nerve.
Correct.
And you mentioned that the vagus nerve is part of the brainstem?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So can you just delve a bit deeper into the brainstem as well?
Well, we've got the brain here, right? So brain, and then the brainstem is really just the bridge between your brain and your spinal cord.
Okay.
And you have these cranial nerves, that control nerves in your head and face. But the vagus nerve is very special. It's called the wandering nerve. Vagus it's Latin for vagabond.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, which is to transcend. And when you look at, if you Google vagus nerve and you have a look at the actual nerve, it's the most interesting nerve. It's like a branch. It's like a weed that just goes from your brainstem down into your gut. It just wanders, and that's what the nerve is for. It wanders. It controls your heart. It controls the autonomics to the gut. And it's mostly it's a sensory nerve, so it lets your brain know what's going on in and around your gastrointestinal system.
Love it. So thank you for breaking that in a bit more detail.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you were like,
I'm detailed. I'll go deep.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I've got to slow you down. You're like, axis, vagus nerve, brainstem, all in span of 3 seconds. You're like, all right, what is all of that together? So the vagus nerve is really that connection between the gut and connecting it to the brain, the nervous system.
Correct.
So what's the signals like? Is it only just sending signals back up, sending signals down? How do they communicate with each other?
Yeah, good question, Dr. Oz. So the vagus nerve is a main sensory nerve, to the brain. It lets the brain know what's going on in terms of the gut, in terms of digestion, in terms of dealing with metabolic health, cellular repair and processes. But it also has motor output as well, so it helps the parasympathetic nervous system work, which is the rest, digest and repair system of the body. So it regulates that.
Okay.
So you hear the term vagal tone. What that really means is the tone of that vagus nerve. Yeah. If it's low tone, that means you have a dysautonomia, which means your nervous system isn't working properly.
Okay.
Which is something we can go into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it can be high tone. It can be healthy, normal balance, which pretty much mean the power of that nerve is working appropriately to make you healthy.
Yeah. So you did mention dysautonomia. What can you break that down just in a bit more detail?
Yeah. So your autonomic nervous system, otherwise known as the automatic nervous system, is the nervous system that is working right now. Are you telling your heart to beat?
No.
Are you telling your left kidney to work? I am. You get what I mean, right? Your body 24/7, 365 is under constant automatic control.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have two divisions. You have the sympathetic system. You probably hear about this, the fight, flight, or freeze system. That's designed for short-term survival. You know, like when we were cavemen and cavewomen, you see a woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger thousands of years ago. What do you want to do? You'll be running, right? Yeah. And then the opposite system to that is the parasympathetic, known as the rest, digest, and healing system. Yeah, and so what's interesting is when this system is in balance, it's activated, you get more blood flow to the gut, and you also get increased healing, digestion, and immune system is also more powered on.
So I feel like you're going to be touching on this in just a moment, but we know just in modern life now, we're so much more sympathetically driven. So we're much more stress response. And rather than being like acute stress running away from tigers, our brain can't actually distinguish the types of stresses.
Yeah, that's
so
correct.
We're just in a more chronic level of stress. So I'm guessing that is going to have a big impact in our gut as well.
Big time. Yeah, you touched on that really good, Dr. Oz, because it's that chronic stress that we don't get a break from that's causing dysregulation of our nervous system. It's not getting a break.
Let's just jump straight into it then. Like that dysregulation, how's that affecting my gut? How is that affecting my digestion?
Yeah. So that's the effect, right? We need to have a look at the cause. You know, so we're always, as chiropractors, as clinicians, you know, smart treatment and smart questions. You know, health starts with asking why. In my opinion, a great doctor once told me that the best question you can ask is why is this problem developing in your body? That way, when it comes to treatment, you have the right ladder on the right tree in the right jungle on a good day.
I love it.
Because a lot of gut problems isn't due to a Panadol shortage or a lack of not reading this certain ebook, right? It's not understanding the health and integrity of what is important. And when it comes to what causes a lot of gut problems, you need to have a look at the different stresses in the body. So there's 3 different types of stresses. You have your thoughts, you have your traumas, and you have your toxins, okay? All are a reflection of our chronic modern lifestyle stresses. Yeah. What we eat, what we drink, how we think, our inability to move correctly, and our lack of exercise and movement is causing so many levels of dysfunction in our body. When it comes to our gut health, it's affecting the gut quite a lot.
Massive. Because when we talk about now the gut health, right?
Yeah.
Now we're jumping into the esoteric system.
Yep.
There's a big part where you've got trillions of microbes.
Oh yeah.
So how is there such a strong connection between, you know, what's happening in my gut in terms of stress, and how is that actually further complicating the issues that we have in our nervous system?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest common gut problems that we help patients with is leaky gut syndrome, gut dysbiosis. You've heard these terms before. Inflammatory bowel disease. Really what it is damage to the endothelium of our gut. So your gut should have a nice, beautiful, healthy, normal gut lining. Okay, it's called the gut blood lining. Okay, the same lining is in our brain. Very interesting. We can touch on that if you want. But essentially, there's different stresses, right, that cause damage to our gut wall, like leaky gut syndrome. Common stresses are things you need to stop doing or modify. Things like alcohol, things like NSAIDs, okay, ibuprofen, okay, Panadol, okay. Panadol's going to hate me after doing this podcast.
Absolutely.
But putting a pill into your mouth, right, yeah, what it does, it's like a hand grenade for your gut. this is actually what researchers coined NSAIDs or pills, is medications as hand grenades to your gut. It damages the lining. Yeah, and what happens is other things like gluten, toxins, okay, other medications, chronic stress, emotional stress, sympathetic dominance, damages the gut wall, okay, junk food, processed foods, okay, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and also any other toxins in our environment upset our gut, just to name a few, okay, like top 10 things.
That's big. And you know, one of the things, like, I can just, when you talk about like medications, my mind goes straight to my mum, right? Just having constant anti-reflux tablets, causing her body to adapt, breakdown of the esophagus, getting constant reflux, her ulcers as a result of that as well. Where the body just, the question wasn't asked of why it was happening, it was, you're having this, let's just stop that.
Yeah.
And then the why was never addressed. And 20 years down the track, there's a bigger problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
you know, if you just cover up symptoms without addressing the cause, you know, we all know it's just like sweeping it under the rug. The problem, or the health problem, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes some sort of crisis. And unfortunately, when it comes to our family, you know, it can cut close to the bone. It can cut close to the bone. It can get deep, right? And I had the same issues in my family and people I know in my life. You know, but you just gotta care for them and give them the truth about health. And
this is why I'm actually really excited for this episode, because everyone listening now, I want you to know that this is going to change people's lives. Just knowing how your nervous system and your gut communicate to one another, and just the amount of medications and poor things that we put into our lives, into our bodies, is causing toxicity. It's breaking us down. It's killing us slowly. Slowly. Your quality of life is going down.
Absolutely.
So I'm not just speaking to you here, Ben, but I'm also speaking to everyone listening in.
Of course.
Because it's such a big thing.
Yeah. And so really, if I could provide people with the framework of how to manage gut, and so our listeners can take home some tips and strategies, it's stop the bad. Yeah. Certain things you need to stop doing, like a traffic light. You know, you know the rules of the road, right? You get the traffic light, you got the red light. Stop things we need to stop doing that destroy our health and our gut health. And then you have the green line, which is go, stuff you need to start doing. Yeah, and then there's things that you need to slow down or moderate, which is the orange light as well. Okay, so if you want to go through those things as well, what people need to start doing as well, that'll be awesome too.
I was going to say, there was one more thing that I wanted to touch on a bit more, was because we talked about like all the toxicity stuff, right? But what about deficiencies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, before we go into like actual strategies that people can implement, because I know there's the toxicity aspect, which is what we just talked about, right? We're killing ourselves by putting these toxic stuff into our body. Yeah. But what about people not feeding it the right things?
Yeah. And like all health problems can be traced back to either a toxicity or a deficiency. And when you look at toxicity and deficiency, they're not like separate categories. They're interrelated. One promotes the other, and the other promotes the other. Like they're interrelated. So, you know, our diets, the standard Australian diet, the standard American diet is toxic. It's full of processed sugars. It's full of unhealthy toxins that are destroying our health, destroying our gut microbiome. This, in essence, causes nutrition deficiencies because we're not eating enough healthy foods full of nutrients, vitamins and minerals, healthy, dense foods. We're not eating enough of that. So naturally, we're becoming more deficient in the nutrients, the macro, the micronutrients, the phytonutrients that we need for good health. Yeah, it starts with what we put in your mouth.
Massive.
Yeah, everything you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting disease.
Love it.
So we need to go away from this toxic diet that we're all eating, right? That most of the society is eating, and we need to go towards more natural, whole food, healthy, normal foods. You know, if it doesn't come from the earth, it doesn't walk, it doesn't swim, it doesn't fly, don't eat it.
So let's jump straight into it then. Let's look at people's let's look at ways that we can manage and address it a lot better. So some of the things that, you know, most common people always talk about is like diet. All right, what you're eating. So why don't we start there? Why don't we give people like the real facts of what they should be doing around what they're eating and what their dietary requirements are to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, in general, you need to cover the essential macronutrients. So the first one begins with P, protein. So protein is essential for amino acids, the building blocks of the cells, and also making sure that you're healing and repairing appropriately. So what I recommend a lot of patients get into is high quality, grass-fed, free range, organic proteins. Beef, lamb, chicken, fish, eggs are amazing, and nuts and seeds. That's where you can get a lot of proteins from.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And what sort of things should we be avoiding other than just like alcohol and medications?
So what we want to be avoiding is gluten, so grain, grain damage. Okay, there's a book called Grain Brain, if anyone's interested to read it. Grain is pro-inflammatory. So when I say grains, these are things like processed flours, bread, especially white bread. It's GMO, it's highly processed, and it's full of all these toxins. We can't digest grains in our guts. So a lot of people who have inflammatory conditions, they don't realize that things like dairy, things like grains are upsetting or promoting an inflammatory process. So cut out the processed grains and the processed
There are some processed,
cereals.
not processed, apologies. There are some protein heavy breads as well that are like not white, that are literally like darkest colors that you can think of. Usually I find those work a lot better. They're low carb and all of that. One of the big things here is, we talked about diet now, but you also spoke about that's the chemicals, but then you've also got the emotional, and you got the physical. So how does giving actionable steps for our emotional part of our stresses in our life impact our health?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we're understanding in psychology today is that our thoughts, our emotions, our mental health influences our physical health. And we really need to break that down. What does that mean? Is that if you're not positive, if you're not having good social relationships, if you have lifestyle stress, emotional stress, it affects the actual mitochondria of your cells. This is a cell, right? The mitochondria, everyone's heard the mitochondria. Mitochondrial dysfunction. That's really where all dysfunction begins. And so mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's responsible for driving that ATP production and to driving cellular function, right? So this is a cell. Mitochondria lives inside of it, and what happens is the cell doesn't work as well when we are psychologically stressed. And that then predisposes all the different categories of mood disorders, mental health issues. ADHD has been linked to the gut, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, anxiety, depression, a whole host of neuropathological, psychological issues have been associated with gut dysfunction.
Wow.
Because gut plays a big role, not just digesting and healing, but also 90% of serotonin is made in your gut. And other neurotransmitters, which are the chemical messages that make sure everything works properly, made in your gut.
Wow.
So if your gut isn't working properly, gut-brain dysfunction.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of research coming out now that's uncovering these links.
They're all catching up, right? They're all catching up to what's already been said.
I could talk all day about it. Yeah.
And then what about physical? What about if I go, I want to have a healthier exenteric system. I don't want to call it gut health, I want to say exenteric system. And I want to have a healthier nervous system because they're both connected. How can I address that physically?
Yeah, absolutely. So, physical stress, it affects our bodies. When it comes to your spine and nervous system, if you have micro traumas, little things, or macro traumas, big injuries, it can actually throw your spine out and you can get nerve compression or subluxation to your gastrointestinal system. And it can cause, literally, decreased nerve tone, nerve power, to your gut. So your mid back there, T5 to T9, controls those autonomic fibers that control your gut. And also in your brainstem there, you also have that vagus nerve that goes down. So there's two main pathways.
Wow.
If you have stress at those two areas of the spine, guess what? They both lead to the gut. So physical stresses definitely can have an impact on the way your gut functions through that spinal pathway.
That's very true. That's very true.
It's like stepping on a hose. Step on a hose that's running water. The water doesn't get there.
One thing that I've used as a great analogy is like when you're very stressed, the last thing you want to do is go to the bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so you inhibit your gut.
Yeah.
Right, you inhibit your gut, and obviously stress is not just the physical stresses. You've got the emotional and the toxicity side as well. So you find that because you're not going to the bathroom, your body, your digestive system's not working well. You're more inhibited. So the toxicity stays in your body more.
That's correct.
Right, and the more it stays in your body, the more it stays in the bloodstreams, and it's causing more damage to your body in the long run. So it's almost like a downward spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's why it's so important to have nervous system balance between those two, sympathetic and your parasympathetic. Because a lot of people don't realize that they're in this massive imbalance. So those lifestyle behaviors, chiropractic care, helps get you back into balance.
Massive difference.
And it's different for everyone, you know, and you need to ask the right questions, and you need to find out what in your life is causing, what in your life are the barriers to you not having good brain-body health, gut health, and that, you know, that takes time, but it's an important conversation to have.
Yeah, because your health is a journey. It's not a quick get on top of it.
Not a car wash.
Yeah, not a car wash. So one of the big things now is like, we'll start wrapping up, but I wanted to check in with you. Is there any last comments you'd like to make, or any last shares or takeaways that you'd like people to action on?
Get good sleep, eat good nutrients, decrease stress, get chiropractic care. See a corrective chiropractor and get your subluxations, get your spinal curves in alignment so you can have that good nerve power. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to health, okay, you know, like the food pyramid, you know, we need to like flip the food pyramid to actually have the truth surrounding health. It's the same when you see a chiropractor. We're going to teach you really two important things: that structure governs function, and that if you don't have nerve power, if you don't have nerve flow, you don't have blood flow, you can't have anything else. There's no point in eating healthy and exercising, and thinking right if you don't have those two first things.
Love it.
So foundation, nerve flow, blood flow, we get that corrected. That's what we do as chiropractors, and then you can enjoy everything else in life as well. But I'd get your spine checked as soon as possible by a corrective chiropractor, and come to my signature gut brain workshop, where we touch on all these topics and go a nice deep dive.
Love it,
and
Doctor.
Teach you about everything you need to know to set you up for success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Doc.
Awesome.
It was a pleasure.